What's up, everybody? This is TwoTenEast, and I'm back with my series for the K-drama Navillera. I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. But I'm coming out with a video every week reviewing the 2 episodes that drop on Monday and Tuesday. So if you're watching this show and looking for a place to talk about it with other people every week, this is the place to be. So before I start this video, I just wanted to say one thing. In the last video I dropped for this show, I got a comment from one of my subscribers, Nana Bliss. Shout out to Nana Bliss. And they raised a good point, which is that I've been calling the old man in this show Jokchul, and I should probably be calling him Mr. Sim or Mr. Shim instead to better show respect to him as an elder and a senior citizen. So from now on, I'll just be referring to him as Mr. Shim. Thank you, Nana Bliss. Okay, let's get into episode 3. Alright, so we get right back into the pool hall drama, and Mr. Sim steps in and he's like, bro, chill. And the blonde dude is like, hey, his dad was arrested for assault. Did you know that? He beat me up and ruined my life. And Mr. Shim's like, bruh, like, did he do that to you? Did he beat you up? It wasn't his fault. He wasn't the one that did it, so why are you blaming him? Rush Hour dude starts trying to fight Che-Rock, and he's not having it, and he's like, I'll pay for this meal when you dance. Dance for me. And they're about to fight, but then Mr. Shim steps in. He's like, I'll dance. And then he offers to play pool with the blonde dude, and if the blonde dude wins, Mr. Shim will dance on top of the pool table, and if Mr. Shim wins, the blonde dude will pay for his stuff and leave Che-Rock alone. So of course Mr. Shim is a beast at pool, and the blonde dude gets his shit rocked, and yeah, that must be super fucking embarrassing. So if we didn't already love Mr. Shim enough after this, he goes back into the pool hall and tells the blonde guy to just leave Che-Rock alone, and he's like, he's gonna soar like an eagle, you fucking punk ass bitch. And we see that Che-Rock was actually listening from the outside, and come on, he's gotta be warming up to Mr. Shim at this point. And I'm just loving this friendship that's developing between the two of them. So meanwhile, the blonde dude is like villain monologuing to himself, and he says he's gonna break Che-Rock's wings, so I don't think we've seen the last of him. So then we get a quick scene with Mr. Key, and we learn that he got injured a while back and had to retire as a result. And perhaps some of his motivation for training Che-Rock comes from the fact that Che-Rock is capable of achieving what Mr. Key couldn't in his own career. And so he kind of wants to vicariously, through Che-Rock, still reach that height that he hoped for. So then Che-Rock gets chewed out by Mr. Key. I guess Mr. Shim told on him and let Mr. Key know that he was still working. And then he talks to him privately afterwards and says that, hey, like, I'm just using Mr. Shim to help teach you. I don't really care if he learns ballet. And if you don't shape up, I'm just gonna get rid of him because I don't really need him. And once he says this, Che-Rock finally agrees to work harder, but he's still kind of mad at Mr. Shim for telling on him and letting Mr. Key know that he's been working. Okay, and then we finally get another scene with Yun-Ho and Che-Rock at work. Earlier, he saved her ass again when he takes the blame for missing a reservation. So now she confronts him and says, thanks, but why did you do that? And he's like, well, it's no big deal for me to get in trouble, but for you, it's not the same. And he apologizes for what he said earlier about how she was a pushover. And she's like, all right, word, we Gucci. And yeah, it's just good to see that they're getting to be on better terms. And it looks like Yun-Ho is kind of feeling the kid right now. She's kind of admiring his aesthetics. Yeah, it looks like she might have a crush on him a little bit. Okay, then Che-Rock is like sleeping and he's looking pretty sick, but then Mr. Shim pops up and so does his friend from work. And Mr. Shim is there to take care of him and make some porridge. We get this scene with Mr. Shim and the friend shopping and cooking the porridge together. And it's just good to see these two people that truly care about Che-Rock joining forces and coming together. During the time that Che-Rock sleeps later on, he dreams about his dad and the incident that happened, and we get a little bit more of a look into what exactly happened. It looks like his dad beat that blonde dude with a bat. yeah, that's not good. Of course, we still don't know the full story yet, but yeah, that really doesn't look very excusable to me right now. That looks pretty bad. So you just gotta love how Mr. Shim takes care of Che-Rock and looks after him, making him food, cleaning up his apartment, getting it organized, and then also organizing his fridge with the little post-it notes. And yes, we see the parallel is not lost on Che-Rock, Mr. Shim's post-it notes, and also the post-it notes that are on his fridge giving words of encouragement. So the next day, Che-Rock and Mr. Shim are practicing. Che-Rock asks Mr. Shim why he wants to be on stage since it's obviously too late for him to become a dancer. And Mr. Shim says that he just wants to soar once in his life, which I think pretty much means that he just wants to truly experience doing something he loves, living his dream, which is something that so many people in life never get to do. And I think this is also one of the main themes of the show. Dreams and ambitions, people who have the potential to still chase these dreams, and others who have lost sight of their dreams or their dreams feel like they are out of reach. And basically how this all affects people and how they live their lives. All right, then Mrs. Shim finds Mr. Shim's ballet laundry, and yeah, this was bound to happen sooner or later. She confronts him when he gets home and says, "Care to explain?" And yeah, he has to tell her about his ballet, and she reacts pretty much like I thought she would. She's definitely not a fan. So she gets super pissed and cuts up his ballet clothes, and yeah, that's tough. Super tough. And she's telling him, like, what are you doing? You should be aging gracefully. Just, putter around. Just watch TV at home. Do what old people are supposed to do. Nothing. Okay, then Che-Rock runs into his dad on his mom's birthday, and they both visit her memorial place. So they sit down and they have a meal, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe we'll get some reconciliation here, but nope. The dad tries to ask Che-Rock how he's doing, but Che-Rock's not having it. And I can understand how Che-Rock is feeling, and for the dad, yeah, he's definitely got to come with something better next time than just, how are you doing? I mean, this kid really needs some love, and the dad needs to put in some more effort. So Che-Rock just storms out and leaves him there. And yeah, it didn't go well, but there's still plenty of time for them to work things out. Okay, then a quick scene with Yun-Ho. The boss lady gives her some extra work, says that, oh, you were an English major, so you could do this for me. And yeah, shout out to all my English majors. They want to say our degree is useless, then they also want to ask all kinds of favors. Oh, do this. You were an English major. Oh, can you help me? Oh, because you were an English major. So Yun-Ho agrees to take on this extra work because she wants to get some favor going with her boss. Is this going to be a good thing for her or bad thing? We just don't know yet. So she goes back to her favorite bar, runs into the uncle, the black sheep dude, and they just kind of have a little back and forth, but the black sheep guy, the uncle, mentions that Yun-Ho, is just like her father. And I think he's referring to kind of her ambition and her drive. And again, we see this theme of people and their ambition and their goals and their dreams. Now, whether Yun-Ho's dream is actually the same as the dream her father wants for her, we still don't know if those things are actually aligned. All right, then we get a quick scene with Yun-Ho's dad and his wife, and she got the job that she wanted, and he's like, all right, but you still gotta be my wife, and you still gotta be Yun-Ho's mom. You still need to fulfill those roles. And you can stop right there, buddy. She's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. Most certainly not a man who looks in his closet and picks out that kind of sweater in the morning. So then Mr. Shim and Che-Rock go up to the rooftop, and you know when the characters go up to the rooftop at night and look out at the city, it's about to be some deep shit. And Che-Rock asks Mr. Shim about his fight with his wife and what's he gonna do about it, and his response is great. Basically, he says that it's not the people that try to stop me from doing what I want in life that scares me. It's not being able to do what I want and maybe not even knowing what I want to do anymore that truly scares me. That's why he's taking advantage of this moment and he's going to give it his all, and it really seems to be getting through to Che-Rock and kind of inspiring him. And we get that confirmation in the next scene with Che-Rock and Mr. Key. Che-Rock seems super motivated and he's like, all right, I'll do the competition, I'll do the performance, I'll do it all, I'm ready, let's do this, I'm ready to go. And I also love how he tells Mr. Key that, hey, I know you were just using Mr. Shim to help teach me, and you don't care if he actually learns ballet, but I do. And I just love that he's standing up for his friend here. It shows that Che-Rock also respects Mr. Shim's dreams and his ambitions. Okay, then Che-Rock, while he's practicing with Mr. Shim, takes a picture of him doing ballet and tells him to share it to his family group chat. And Mr. Shim kind of hesitates, like, won't my family worry? But Che-Rock calls him out and he's like, you gotta give it your all. I thought you were gonna give it your all. I thought you were just gonna go ahead and do this, and you gotta put yourself out there. So Mr. Shim does it. He sends the picture of him doing ballet to everyone in his family on the group chat, and the cat's out of the bag. Everyone's gonna know now. And we get some great reactions. Some are pretty positive ones, some are just kind of confused, and the wife, we don't really even get to see her reaction, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna be too great. Okay guys, that's it for episode 3. Let's move right on into episode 4. Okay, let's get into episode 4. So, big surprise, Mrs. Shim is not happy. She is pissed. She calls and yells at him and tells him to come home right away. And meanwhile, the rest of the family plans to call an emergency family meeting. And wow, they're really acting like it's the end of the world or something. So they have this meeting and it's just like, really, guys? Who cares? What the fuck? It just seems like they're being so dramatic about this. So I'm glad to see that the in-laws are fine with Mr. Shim doing this. They're in support of it. They don't have any problem with it. But most of the main family, the children, are against it. And I'm seeing this common thread here that the in-laws that support Mr. Shim are themselves also people involved in pursuing their own dreams. And these are dreams that their spouses, who are the children, really don't seem to support that much. We've got the wife of kind of a dick guy, and she wants to work again. She wants to have a job. And then we've got the in-law, the husband, who is trying to become a politician. And it's really no surprise that these people who can relate to Mr. Shim are in support of him and have no problem with this. And it's all the kids who are kind of bitter and resentful and probably had their dreams crushed at some point or lost their dreams. It's no surprise that they're the ones that are so offended by this. And of course, the only one of the actual kids who's cool with it is the black sheep guy. And I knew he'd come through. I'm starting to really like this guy. And he's just speaking facts. Like, why did you guys hold a family meeting for this? It's not some kind of like international diplomatic crisis. And again, we see that in this family of people who aren't really supportive of dreams, maybe because their own dreams have been crushed or lost, the guy who sticks out and is the outcast is the only one who may be pursuing his own. We don't know exactly if he has a passion for filmmaking, but we know he quit his job, gone off the expected path, and is trying to pursue something else. And he can definitely relate to not being approved of by the family. So then we get a nice moment with the wife of kind of a dick guy. Her name is A-Ran, and she reminds Mr. Shim about this time in the past when he stopped by and kind of took care of Yun-Ho when A-Ran was feeling down, and she gives him some words of encouragement, and I'm just glad to see that there's some people on his side telling him that he can do it, that he should keep going. And yeah, I'm officially a fan of A-Ran. She's standing up for Mr. Shim, she's telling her husband off, and he needs telling off. Definitely team A-Ran here. Alright, so Che-Rock is getting ready for his competition, and he decides to quit his job at the restaurant hotel place thing, and his boss is like, you didn't even give me a chance to dissuade you by saying goodbye. What the fuck was she saying? And it kind of seems like she was kind of checking out Che-Rock too. And damn, it seems like everybody wants my guy right now. Okay, so then in the middle of him quitting, of course, Yun-Ho just happens to barge in clumsily, and the boss is like, oh, just whatever, put that stuff on the table. So Yun-Ho overhears that Che-Rock is quitting, and she's obviously a little disappointed about that because Che-Rock is her boo. So afterwards, she catches up with him on the stairs, and she's like, bruh, you really leaving? Like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, bruh, I'm gonna like pursue something that I can put my all into and give it my everything or whatever. And she's like, sweet dude. And then she asks him about ballet and whether one could still do it despite their age, because obviously she knows that her grandfather is doing ballet, and she also knows that Che-Rock does ballet. When are they going to finally make this connection? And he's like, well, who are you asking about? She's like, oh, it's my grandpa, he wants to do ballet. And he's like, oh, wow, oh yeah, I also know a grandpa that does ballet too. It's like, what the fuck, guys? How can you not think to ask if it's the same guy? How many fucking grandpas could possibly be doing ballet around here? But no, they don't make the connection, and I guess we'll have to wait a little longer for this reveal. Okay, so then Mr. Key stops by his ex-wife's ballet studio and wants to have some of her ballerinos practice with Che-Rock since they're both doing the same routine or whatever. And she's like, no way, but then one of the guys overhears Mr. Key and he's like, yeah, let's do it, man. So then the ex-wife is like, oh, shit, okay, fine. And it looks like we might get some new characters appearing, some new competition for Che-Rock. Okay, then we get a quick scene with Ran, and it's looking like she kind of got played with her new job. It looks like her position, there's not much to really do. No one really comes in for consultation, and it's kind of a joke job. And she's kind of pissed because she suspects that her husband just set her up with that job on purpose so that she wouldn't really have anything to do, and it wouldn't be like a real job. And yeah, I would probably be pretty pissed too if that was what happened. Okay, so then kind of a dick guy is becoming a full-on jerk right here. He goes to Mr. Key and demands he kick Mr. Shim, his father, out of his studio. He says, oh, he could get injured, it's ridiculous that he wants to do this, and oh, hey, also, no offense, but this is humiliating. And I love it. Mr. Key stands up for Mr. Shim. He's like, hey, it's not my choice. It's his choice if he wants to quit or not. And yeah, the kind of a dick guy, he really shouldn't have insulted ballet as an art form if he wanted Mr. Key to take his side. And then we get a great moment where Che-Rock just comes in because he'd been overhearing what was going on. And he just, oh, oops, spills water on the kind of a dick guy. And yeah, that's right. Take your goofy ass out of here. Nice try, man. So then even Mr. Key is like, damn, dude, that was really obvious. And Che-Rock's like, damn right it was. All right, so then Mrs. Shim is still giving Mr. Shim the cold shoulder, but she at least helps with his bandages or whatever. And they start talking, and she's saying, why are you doing this when it's troubling our kids? And they talk about how the kids were raised poor and they couldn't give them everything that they wanted. And this metaphor of wings returns where Mrs. Shim says, we couldn't even give wings to them. I guess this means they couldn't give them every opportunity, couldn't provide the best kind of life, and couldn't give them, I guess, the opportunity to pursue the dreams they really wanted to freely. And we get this flashback of how the kids grew up and all of their struggles and how they grew up poor. And yeah, this is really sad and all, but like, why does that have to conflict with their dad wanting to take up ballet when he's retired? Like, what the fuck? And poor Mr. Shim agrees finally to give up ballet. We know since this is a show with a bunch of episodes left, he won't give it up for good. But yeah, it sucks he bought into this guilt trip because what the fuck? If I were his kid, I wouldn't resent him for wanting to do what he wants after having no time for himself all these years. Years he spent trying to provide for me. And I just don't get it. It's like, wouldn't you be happy for your dad after all these years finally getting a chance to do what he wants to do? Wouldn't you be supportive of that? So for now, Mr. Shim is resolved to stop ballet, and Che-Rock notices right away. He doesn't get his wake-up call as usual and sees Mr. Shim hasn't shown up. So he calls him, and Mr. Shim is like, I don't think I can do this, but he doesn't have time to fully explain because he's on a hike, and this sucks, man. So one other thing I noticed is that here, when they're on the hike, you can see this look on Mrs. Shim's face, and also the same look when they were getting ready for the hike. I think she's realizing that her husband is truly unhappy, even though he's putting on a smile. She's starting to see how important his ballet was to him and how much happiness it was bringing him, and that denying him of this thing that he loves is really getting his spirits down. Okay, so then Che-Rock stops by Mr. Shim's house, but sees him there with his family and kind of decides he's not going to say anything or go up to him. And then, for fuck's sake, not this blonde guy again. Really, he just happens to be wandering around this neighborhood with his high school movie trope gang of bullies. Really? But this turns into a pretty crazy scene. The bully blonde dude tries to, I don't know, whatever, intimidate him again. And Che-Rock has really had enough. He just unleashes this cold, hard shower of truth on this guy. Basically, he tells him, look, I'm here doing my own thing with ballet. I'm good at it. I know it was fucked up what happened, but all you've done is dwell on it and let it stop you from pursuing your dreams. You could have still made it as a soccer player, but you gave up, and got stuck in the past. And again, whether it's the blonde dude, Mr. Key, Mr. Shim, kind of a dick guy, and his wife, Aran, there's so many people in this show that never got to fully reach their dreams, and a lot of them have resentment because of that. Some are still willing to try, some are looking to fulfill it in other ways, and it's just a powerful moment here, and blonde guy just gets completely mind-fucked. You gotta kind of feel sorry for this guy. Che-Rock is right, he's gotta stop wandering around with a group of cliches and do something with his life. Okay, so then Che-Rock stops by the studio of the ex-wife lady, and it's time to compete against her guy. And yeah, we get a little trash talk going on, and I'm here for it. I love the trash talk. Let's do this. Can't wait to see what happens with that. Meanwhile, Mr. Shim is still just really depressed. You can tell he's really missing his ballet and Che-Rock and being his manager and having that purpose and feeling that he's doing what he loves. And yeah, he's just not in the best of spirits. And of course, we get some really bad timing. Mr. Shim, nostalgic for his ballet days, puts on his old outfit, but then his son happens to walk in right at that moment, kind of a dick guy, and catches him wearing his full, ballet outfit. And he gets really mad and reveals that, hey, I gave up a lot of stuff I wanted to do because of my siblings, and I gave up a lot of stuff I wanted to do because of you. And this is pretty much what I expected. He's obviously resentful and bitter because he had to give up on his dreams. And again, I feel bad for him, but it's like, why does your dad taking up ballet when he's retired have to be offensive to you? Why does it have to be ballet or his kids? Why does he have to choose between those two? And then we just get this epic moment. Mrs. Shim has had enough. She just comes out of nowhere and just hits Seong-san, the kind of a dick guy, Seong-san. I don't know. She hits him with some plants or flowers or whatever, and she's like, how dare you? Your father worked every day to provide for you. And I just love it. She's standing up for her husband. And this show is just it's nuts, man. This is a really heartbreaking moment. They're all crying. They're all so emotional, and it's a great scene. Poor Mrs. Shim. Poor Mr. Shim. Fuck it. Poor kind of a dick guy. I was tearing up a little here. It was just a really emotional scene. So I was hoping that after this, Mrs. Shim, it meant that she's going to start coming around. And yes, in the next scene, she says, you know what, go ahead and do ballet if you want. And I knew it. I could tell that she loved her husband despite her exterior in the first couple episodes. I knew she was noticing and paying attention to how unhappy he was when he was denied what he wanted to do. So welcome back, Mrs. Shim, to Team Good Guys. Glad to have you here. Let's go. We back in this bit. So Mr. Shim returns back to the studio. Che-Rock shows up and congratulates him, and Mr. Shim's like, yeah, bro, I'm back, but can you do me a favor? And it turns out that he is going to give a car to Yun-Ho, which he has named Bung Bung, and it's got bows all over it. This is just such a wholesome moment. And he wants Che-Rock to drive the car for him to where Yun-Ho is so that he can give her the gift. And it looks like this is it, guys. It's time for the reveal. It's time for these two to realize their connection, and time for everybody to realize how they're all connected here. So Mr. Shim meets up with Yun-Ho, asks about her interview, blah, blah, blah. And Mr. Shim's like, hey, I didn't get you a gift before, but now I'm gonna get you one. Cool, whatever. And yes, it is happening, guys. It's happening. And it's just, this scene is golden. Che-Rock pulls up in the car, but he kind of sucks at driving, and it's hilarious. And he gets out of the car, and they see each other, and they realize the connection. So Mr. Shim is like, oh, I didn't realize you guys were friends. And Che-Rock is still acting like a tsundere girl from an anime, and he's like, we're coworkers, not friends, okay? Yeah, and I'm really starting to like Yun-Ho too. She's cracking jokes like, so is the car my gift, or is he my gift, or both, or what's up? And yeah, it's official. Che-Rock is a tsundere girl from an anime. It's confirmed. So Yun-Ho is like, hey, I'll treat you for dinner since you gave me a gift. And Mr. Shim is like, yeah, I'd like to see both of you guys again. And yes, this is good. We get another reason for them to see each other again, the two lovebirds. So everything is looking all good. Everything's great. And then we get some bad news. It seems like Yun-Ho has gotten a C on her evaluation and gotten disqualified. I guess the boss didn't like that she did the thing that the boss asked her to do, and the boss is like, well, you could have refused me. What the fuck? and this seems pretty messed up. But yeah, Mr. Shim and Chae-Rock show up just in time for the end of it, and damn, this really sucks. Not good for Yun-Ho. All right, this was a great episode. It really tugged at the old heartstrings. I'm sad about Yun-Ho and her job, but honestly, I'm starting to develop a theory that this ballet thing with Mr. Shim and Chae-Rock might end up doing good for others as well. I mean, there's already the chance the black sheep son Seong-Gwan might make his documentary about his dad. Maybe Yun-Ho might also join their team. I don't know, maybe be a manager too or something. I don't know. She might help them out in some other way. But at the very least, I think she will be influenced by them indirectly to pursue something that she truly wants to do as well. Anyways, guys, that's it for this week's video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think of this show and these episodes, and maybe share some of your predictions as well. I love hearing your thoughts and opinions. And yeah, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next week.